So we're at the Asian market, walking around, and we saw some
Goji berries.
And I looked at it, and Derica said,
"Can you make a wine with that?"
I said, "I think I can make a wine with that."
So let's make a wine with that.
Okay, so goji berries are dried. You can hear it. They're very, very dry. We have 2 packages here, 6 ounces each. I have a kettle with water in it. I'll be honest, the water was preheated so that this goes a little quicker. See the steam? And what I'm gonna do for both sanitation and hydration purposes is I'm gonna dump, whoops, probably don't want the silicone packets in our tea. I'm gonna, ooh, they smell good.
Yeah, you smell good.
I've had goji berries before, but not in a long time. I'm going to just dump them right in there, and I'm gonna bring that back up to a boil and get the water nice and hot because we're gonna sanitize these berries, and it'll hydrate them just a little bit.
Get the packets, get the packets, get the packets.
I don't see them.
All right, well.
Oh, there's one. There's the other one. See? They were buried in this one. Not cool. Okay, now I'm just gonna put this back onto the base and heat it up. So while our berries are steeping, I'm going to hydrate some yeast. And for that, I'm using a half packet of EC1118 yeast. Why a half packet? Because it's what we had. Why EC1118? Also because it's what we had. But it's also a really good performer. It works really, really well. We are not gonna be adding any yeast nutrient or anything else to this. This is a very, very, very simple wine on purpose because we've never actually worked with this before. But I think there's so much stuff in these berries, as Derica said. There's tannins, there should be nutrients, there should be a lot of things here that I don't know that we really need to worry about it.
We also don't know how acidic goji berries are, but
Right.
we have ways of figuring that out.
Right, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to this and apparently make a mess. It's okay.
It's all
We're
right.
good.
Everything's
Yeah.
fine. Everything's fine.
It's all good. Cat screamed in the next room and it made me, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so we have our goji berries here. Let's move the fermenter out of the way for just a moment because
Okay.
I'm going to do
gonna
this.
Put it over here.
This is hot. I don't want to put this directly into our fermenter. So we have some water here. I'm going to start pouring.
Okay, so it's gonna keep all the goji berries.
I know.
Is that
and
what
then
you
I
want?
can pop the top and pour the goji berries in separately so they don't splash everybody all over the place.
Okay.
It really is an unusual color. Not what I expected. You see, now I can pop the lid and go like that. Get in! It's comedy of errors around here sometimes, you know?
You left one.
Every berry counts. No, he's stuck now.
He's the sacrificial berry.
He will not ever realize his potential. I can put my hands on this now, which means we're probably not going to thermal shock our other fermenter.
So we know besides this, we actually want to add sugar.
Which we will.
So what is your order of operations here? Do you want to put the sugar in first so that the hot water will dissolve the sugar? Or you want to put that in first and then hope that the sugar
We can put the
dissolves?
sugar in first if you would like.
I was just wondering if that would be easier on our scale.
Right. First things first, I also know that there's only about 60 grams of sugars in each of those packs. So there's like 120 grams of sugars, which is like maybe 10 or 15 points. I'm not even gonna count it because whatever is in there might have come out into the water already, so it's all good. But what I would like to do is figure out where would we like this to end up?
I would like it to go past 10% ABV so we don't have to worry about vinegarization. 15% is the cutoff to truly not have to worry about vinegarization, so we can go that high.
We never go that high.
Well, we can go with EC1118.
In theory, but we're not using yeast nutrient this time.
That's true.
So what if we shoot for like 11 or 12?
Okay.
Let's do 11. Somebody asked the other day how to calculate what my starting gravity should be if I know what I want my ABV to be. So if we're gonna go for 11, 11 seems to be a good number. Take 11, divide it by 135, gives us 0.081. Now, because we know that that is denser than water, water being 1.000, we add those two together. So it'd be 1.081, or we could just go with 1.080 and call it a day.
So how much sugar does that equate to be?
I probably should have done that before I put the calculator away. So using the calculator teacher said I would never have handy, 0.08 divided by 0.046, because that's what sugar does in a gallon. So 1 pound of sugar in a gallon of must will give you 0.046 original gravity, approximately. So that means 1.7 pounds of sugar.
Okay.
Is that right in your face? No, this is.
Everything's in my face.
By the way, everything that we're using has been sanitized in
The red sanitization!
Okay, so that means 1.7 pounds of sugar. About 1 pound, 12 ounces. I'll put the metric right here. In case you're wondering why we're adding sugar, if this is your first time ever making wine, the sugar will actually help the yeast to create alcohol because they need something to convert. There's just not enough sugars in this to actually make much of anything. It would make like maybe 1 to 2% alcohol, I'm guessing off the top of my head. So now I'm going to start pouring this into here. It'll help to dissolve that sugar, and you know, it's where we want it to be anyway. All right, now's the dangerous part.
Do you want me to get the ladle out?
I'm gonna have to paddle to stir it.
Let me
anyway.
get that for you real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm using the paddle to get these out because otherwise they just, yeah, they'll splash anyway. Okay, so now I'm gonna start the mixing process to try to get some of that sugar dissolved. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more water because we lost a lot of space due to the goji berries themselves. This is a 5 liter or 1.3 gallon fermenter, so I know I can go up into there, and then when we lose like that, you know, third of the gallon to the goji berries themselves after racking, we still end up with roughly a gallon. That's the theory. Now, you want to mix this well if you want to be able to get an accurate gravity reading to start. That way you can calculate how much alcohol you made, and that way we can also see if my math was good. Using the warm water helps a lot, but it does make it difficult when we come to the next step, which is adding our yeast. Well, not the next step, but an upcoming step. But for now, I just want to put in a little bit of this water. I want to leave some space, because if I go all the way into the top, it's very likely to erupt through the airlock and cause a huge mess, especially with all these berries. I may have gone a little bit too far. It's possible. I do that often. Before I add our yeast though, I need to take the temperature and make sure that it's within range for the yeast. Anything above 110 degrees Fahrenheit is probably dangerous for the yeast. Right now we're sitting at 116.8. If I had put the yeast in there, there's a good chance they would have died. So what I want to do is let this cool a little bit.
There's another thing I'd like to check, and I don't know if that temperature affects that, and that's the pH.
It does,
okay.
Actually. We don't want to check the pH when it's that high.
Right.
A little bit out of range isn't such a big deal, but I don't want to go that high, except that my pH meter adjusts automatically for temperature. If you're using one of the like $20 to $30 pH meters, you're probably not going to get an accurate reading if you measure something at this temperature. But this one...
It's our new one.
This is our new one from Eric Hill. Okay, we're at 5.57 pH. It's also reading 113.2 degrees Fahrenheit. So that tells me that our pH is just fine. That's like in the perfect range for most yeast, 5.56 or whatever it was, 5.57?
5.57.
Absolutely perfect. We just need this to be a little bit cooler before we add our yeast in.
There's something you want to keep in mind when taking pH readings for your brews. You want to make sure that if you run in one direction, you're actually running slightly basic or alkaline rather than slightly acidic, because the fermentation process itself becomes more acidic and it'll acidify the brew as the fermentation process continues.
We're gonna let this cool. We'll be back once it's cooled off. Okay, so I just put this into a pot of cool water and just got it down to like 104 or so Fahrenheit, and now it is the appropriate temperature for us to pitch our yeast.
Did we get a foam on our yeast?
Not really. So, you know, some people have been telling me that we need to put some sugar in there and all that kind of thing. They might be right. Maybe we will try doing that, but I know that we used this packet once before and it worked, so it's probably okay. Here's the thing with yeast. If you don't see any activity within about 3 days, pitch more. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm just gonna give this a bit of a swirl, get all the yeast up and in the liquid, and pour it right in. I'm just gonna mix that through, make sure that they're evenly dispersed. And I'm going to take my gravity reading now. A lot of people will say, oh, don't do that after you've added yeast. Well, here's the thing. There was water mixed with that yeast, so it would alter our reading. That's why I did it that way. For that, I'm going to use a hydrometer. If you remember, our target was 1.080 Let's see where we're at. Not too bad. 1.082. Sample goes back in because everything was sanitized. We don't have to worry about that. Put our lid and airlock on. First time using this fermenter, so we're testing out the seal as well as testing out the fermenter itself. Looks like it should be pretty good. Yeah, it's holding pressure, so it's got a good seal. What are we gonna do with this now?
We're gonna let it sit. But because this is the first time we've been working with these particular ingredients in this particular fermenter, we're for sure gonna put this on a cookie tray with raised edges just in case things go awry.
Overflow. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. 2 seconds for you guys when this is evened out and done with fermentation. So it's been 2 weeks, and fermentation looks like it may have slowed down a lot, if not completely stopped, because the airlock stopped doing its thing.
If you watched our special video on this new fermenter style, we showed a little insert about how this got messy, and it actually popped the lid off, which we actually...
I call it a feature.
Liked, because
stopped it from blowing up.
Caused it... Yes, that. So it actually retained the pressure because it was only popped on the one side, and so we just cleaned it up, popped it right back on. Everything was fine. So that worked really well with this new fermenter.
I want to show you what it looks like inside. All right, so this is our optical investigation. And when you look inside, you can see there's a lot of seeds and remnants of the berries that stuck to the sides. No problem there at all. I did do a lot of swirling with this one, a lot of mixing it up to keep those berries, well, as moist as possible. But I have not disturbed it in several days. So they're still moist, but they're starting to dry out. So this is the point at which you gotta kind of start making choices. There's no mold, there's no off smells.
It actually smells pretty good.
It does smell pretty nice. It smells kind of orangey, a little bit citrusy.
Yeah.
It's really unique.
It's like citrus tropical fruit combo.
All this stuff has been sanitized, as always, and this is gonna be a little tricky. I'm gonna depress this first, poke down past the fruit cap and get into the good stuff that's actually...
If you aim the tip of your baster towards the edge where you can see it, then you can make sure you're getting past that goop layer.
Look at the clarity.
That is gorgeous.
This is 2 weeks old. That's pretty amazing. I'm betting it went dry. I mean, you know, just a guess. Our hydrometer was reading 1.082 last time we checked it, and it just started floating. So now it is reading, stop moving. You know, it's funny, you spin this way, the hydrometer goes the other way. So if I go this way, will it come back? It doesn't. But see, when you go the other way, it didn't come back, so no.
Does that have something to do with the rotation of the Earth?
I don't know. Not getting into it. Oh, look at that. That is 0.990. So to say that this is done would be an understatement. It's finished.
0.990.
Yes.
All right, so...
Now's the time that we have to make a choice.
Due diligence, we could let it sit for another week and check it again, but the probability of it
it's not going to go anywhere.
Going anywhere is slim to none. Also, the probability of us wanting to back sweeten this is pretty darn high.
Also, there's a lot of mess in here.
Yeah.
Now we've exposed it to air. I don't really trust that this... I'd have to keep swirling it like every day, and that could cause problems too. So
sure. So some of the things we need to consider is we're obviously going to rack it to get it off of at least both the top sediment and the bottom sediment. But we also might want to do a sneak peek test just to see how much augmentation we anticipate we're going to do to this to determine what size vessel we want to rack it into. Did that make sense?
Sure. So you're saying we need to rack it to a pitcher?
Yeah, we can rack it to a pitcher. That's fine.
Well, otherwise, how would we know?
I was just going to take a taste or a sample taste from that. And that way we'd know, are we going to put a bunch of sweetener in this?
Oh, gotcha. Let me go get a glass.
Okay. So since this is the first time we've been using this vessel, we aren't really sure, just by looking at it, how much volume of product we have in there. So Brian's suggestion to racking it to the pitcher actually is the most logical route for us.
Okay. For a 2-week-old brew, that actually smells pretty nice.
Yeah, normally when they're at this stage...
There's no feet.
Even if I sense I'm going to like it, I can't just breathe in and be happy about it.
And this is very dry.
This smells really good.
There's a couple seeds floating in the sample, but...
Yeah, so avoid the seeds, Brian.
They're edible. I'm betting you it has a really nice tannic quality because there's been a lot of contact with seeds and skins.
All right,
You know what
this is a wine.
It needs some stuff.
Yeah,
It needs some adjustments.
it needs some adjustments.
But it's not bad. For as dry as this is and as young as this is, it's actually...
Brian was right on about the tannins, though. It's got plenty of mouth puckering goodness.
Normally a dry wine this way would have... It'd be watery almost. It'd be very thin. This is not. This is thick and rich.
The flavor does not match the aroma. There's not...
Oh, wow, I think it does.
The aroma is just so potent and joy-inducing. I'm not getting that flavor on my palate. It definitely does that to you.
It's a little jarring.
But I'm not getting that sweet citrus tropical fruit.
Oh, okay. I get a little bit of a citrusy thing. It's much more earthy than I...
Right. Flavor-wise, it's much more earthy than the aroma.
It's like an earthy, citrusy thing. Earthy first, citrusy second.
All right, so let's get our pitcher and our auto siphon, and we'll get to racking.
All right, first things first. Because I don't want to mess up all the lees and the sediment and stuff, I'm going to pour our sample directly into the pitcher. Now, the downside to racking to a pitcher first is we now have to rack twice. We're going to rack it to a pitcher and then rack from the pitcher into the next vessel. But the advantage is we can actually have as little headspace as possible because we will know how much we have. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. I just want to get past that fruit cap. There's a ton of fruit in here. Now, one thing that we noticed as we were, wow, it's starting to fall too. So I'm getting some fruit through there.
Yeah, it's just a thing.
This is the first racking. It's just the way it is sometimes. We noticed on the smell it was lovely. The taste didn't have as much of the fruit characteristic as we might like. It was much more alcohol. It wasn't as harsh as some things we've done at this age, but it could use a little bit more fruit character. We do still have some more goji berries. So maybe we'll be resting it on goji berries. By the way, this is called racking. We're just moving from one pitcher to another. You keep one higher than the other. We actually have a video on this, but we use an auto siphon to do it. It's very simple. And if you don't know how to do it, Derica will put a card here, I think, to how to do it, and it might even be linked in the description. This was a messy rack. Look at the goop inside the air. Yeah, crazy. I did try pumping it right at the end because it seemed like there was a lot more liquid in there, but it just pulled up too much fruit. But we still got 112 ounces, which is pretty close to a gallon. For the size batch that we started with, that's actually not bad. So,
And because we intend on adding more goji berries to try to get more of that goji berry flavor, having less than a gallon to go into our 1 gallon wide mouth is ideal.
yes. So we're gonna rack this to a 1 gallon wide mouth and we'll be back when that's done because it's just the same thing we just did.
Yeah.
Okay, we racked it. And it's pretty close to full. We have here 6 more ounces of the dried goji berries. Now I know they're gonna absorb some of the wine as they go in. They smell earthy, citrusy. They smell better than the wine did.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna pour in and see what happens. You wanna be careful of the silica packets that they don't get into your brew. And look, it all fit. Now, they're gonna swell up and probably get up into the lid and probably...
So you said that was 6 ounces?
6 ounces. They're gonna swell up and take up more space and probably get up into the lid and make a mess, and I'm gonna have to clean that out. But that's all part of homebrewing. I mean, they might not. They might just soak up a little bit and fall to the bottom. I do want to just give this a little bit of a swirl. There's a lot of little air bubbles all over them, and I never degassed this wine at all, as you can tell. See that airlock is going a little crazy? The idea is by degassing some of that, we are forcing the other air that was in there out, okay? There's something to that theory. It's not 100% guarantee, but it does actually help. And the more you do it, the more likely you are to actually force more of the air out. So yeah, degas. However, I do want to leave a little bit. I don't want to fully degas because these things, you know, they might mold if there's no CO2 in there because mold needs oxygen. So if I degassed fully, completely degassed this, and there was any oxygen in there, we could be introducing mold. It's not a guarantee. And don't get crazy. Don't think instantly you got mold. It takes a little while, but it is a possibility. So we're trying to safeguard against that. And if none of that made sense, let me sum up. I wanted to degas a little bit to expel some of the CO2 to force out any oxygen that might have been in there. But I don't want to do too much because then if there's any oxygen left at all, it could induce mold growth.
Also, some things to consider. We used EC1118 as our yeast, which we know has an alcohol tolerance of roughly 18%. We have not made it to 18% yet, so therefore, any sugars that are in those goji berries that we now have just introduced into our must could possibly start fermentation back up.
There's not a lot of sugars in this stuff though. In the 6 ounces, well, there's 34 servings in the bag, which is just absolutely insane. There's 68 grams of sugars. So we're talking like slightly over a tenth of a pound. I'm really not all that concerned about it. I mean, it's just not going to do that much. But using the calculator teacher said I would never have handy, I'm going to calculate what our ABV is, or approximately what our ABV is. Our hydrometer readings were 1.082 at the beginning and 0.990 at the end, giving us 0.092 or 92 points used up, times 135, which is my coefficient of choice. And the reason I use 135 over 131.25, like many other sources say, is because once you go past like 9% or so, it tends to be more accurate because it's not really a straight scale. It's actually a curved scale because ethanol is a much lower gravity than water. I actually have a video explaining all this, and Derica can link that or put a card or something so that you can see that too. But anyway, this is 12.42%, so I'm going to call that 12.
So what does that mean for us as homebrewers? Well, it means we're past the 10%, which is the base for when vinegarization might not occur. The 15 is the higher end where it's basically not going to happen. And that's because acetobacters, which are omnipresent, which causes alcohol plus oxygen to turn into vinegar, can't really do their job once you get to an ABV of 10% and stop at 15%. I said that kind of weird, but hopefully that made sense.
In simpler terms, acetobacters are already here. Oxygen and alcohol allows them to create acetic acid, which makes things turn to vinegar. At 10% alcohol, they have more trouble. By 15%, they really can't do it at all. That's why if you ever notice, if you ever see a recipe to make homemade vinegar, you almost always dilute it down to like 5% because it's easier for the acetobacters to do their job. So really it starts at like 4 or 5%, but by 10%, they're having a lot of trouble. So at 12, we're reasonably safe. However, you want to try to keep as little oxygen in here as possible, or keep as much oxygen out as possible is a better way to say that, because it can cause off flavors and sherry-like notes and things like that down the line. I'm going to degas a little bit more because there's apparently a lot here still. But what are we going to do with it now?
We're going to let it sit.
It's probably going to go in the fermentation station for another week or two because we put more berries in there. I want to extract as much as we can. So let's say probably 2, maybe even 3 weeks. Yeah. And then we'll be back to show you the next step. All right, so this has been sitting for about 2 weeks on the extra berries. I just want to take a quick reading to make sure it didn't ferment any further. It's a very striking color. It's so different than most of our brews, really. It's kind of interesting. It's a 1.004. So what that means is it may have actually fermented slightly, but the goji berries actually extracted more sugars and made it go up. So we can't get an exact ABV on this one. The little bit that the berries added, I'm gonna doubt they fermented much, but that's why I left it at 12.4 rather than rounding down to 12, because I don't think they're gonna do all that much. There wasn't a lot of sugars in them. I'm actually kind of surprised it went up that much, but it actually smells much better than before. Smells kind of nice and fruity now.
Fruity, yep. All right, so we probably want another one of these to rack into.
Yeah, it's probably not even going to fill that, but we'll do the best we can. As we always do, we're going to rack this. But first, the sample needs to go in. And since everything was sanitized, I can just pour it in very carefully. Some people dump this out.
We are not some people.
If you don't sanitize everything, dump it out. Or drink it, actually.
All right, so this is going to be our source.
No, this source, that's destination.
This is destination. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the destination goes lower because gravity is a thing.
It's because of the way a siphon works. I'm not calling it gravity. I'm not calling it anything. It's the way a siphon works. because it's gravity, suction, and a couple other things that I'm not sure on. And every time I say one way or the other, somebody corrects me. So
I think inertia's in there too, isn't it?
it's everything. Add a little sprinkles of magic in there, you know.
Unicorns.
Yep. Elves were involved.
It's the Fae. And you know, when dealing with the Fae, you just don't want to ask questions. You certainly don't want to make a deal.
Okay, we racked it.
It was kind of a messy rack, we'll be honest with you.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of lees in here because I was afraid of not getting enough volume.
So in our original fermentation vessel, we not only had the berries at the top, but we had lees in the bottom that was pretty well compacted. It was just kind of like
Kind of
this
wispy.
cotton candy lumpy formation.
Very strange. So I just let some of that go in there. It'll fall out again, that's fine.
We'll rack it again.
This is the question. We are at the point where you could add something to this to raise the level and not have as much headspace, or you could leave it. We've never actually had anything oxidize from a little too much headspace. So, you know what? I'm gonna risk it. Somebody's gonna complain, somebody's not gonna like it, but in reality, sometimes in homebrew, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Now, if you were not happy with that headspace and you didn't want to risk it, you could add something that you could sanitize and then add to the vessel to
Glass
raise the level.
marbles, weights.
Fermentation weights, whatever. The thing you want to take in consideration is one, it needs to be something that you can sanitize, and two, it's something that you need to be able to add to it and or remove without causing damage to your fermentation vessel. Because if you just drop some glass into a glass fermenter...
And then it doesn't matter, you ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because it's on your floor now.
So
I am swirling this up, and as you can see, there's a lot of CO2 in there.
it's gassy.
So I'm not going to fully degas, and here's why. We depend on CO2 during fermentation to protect things. Now, is it a 100% guarantee? No, but it's a good protection. And I just degassed it a little bit, enough that it probably filled that area and is forcing oxygen out and probably protecting it a little bit. Over time, it's going to degas more, forcing more of the oxygen out and keeping oxygen away from the brew. Is it a 100% guarantee?
No.
But is it a 100% guarantee that this is gonna oxidize?
No.
So it's a calculated risk. If you're not comfortable, like we said, add something to weigh it up. But this is gonna go on the fermentation station for probably another
Week or so.
week or two, because it's looking a little rough, and we'll be back to show you its features. Okay, this has been sitting for about 2 weeks since we last looked at it, and it's settled out. There's quite a bit of goop on the bottom, so we're just gonna rack it off of that into a pitcher so we can make our final adjustments as needed.
We've already racked this once, so you've seen us rack, so we'll be back when we're done.
I am leaving the cap on, though.
Okay, we racked it, and we have 96 US fluid ounces.
So 3/4 of a gallon, roughly. Now, we're just gonna take a quick sample and see if it needs any adjustments. Now, this will sit for a while before it gets bottled. It's actually really amazingly clear.
It's doing this bizarro magic trick, and I don't know if it's because I have it on a red towel,
I think it is.
but when I look diagonally through it, it looks
Oh, yeah.
red.
It's red. And when you hold it up to the light, it's totally red.
And then when I look at it,
It looks
in
like
glass,
a murky greenish brown
it looks
in
like
the picture.
tea.
In here, from my angle, it looks like a murky greenish brown.
So it's like one of those cars with the what's
Iridescent,
the paint?
the paint that changes colors.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
got
know
a
what it's
name.
called. I don't know.
Interference or something. I don't know.
How's it smell?
The aroma is actually really nice.
Now this is at 0.990, so this is dry. You're not wrong. That has a really nice aroma. It's almost kind of a spicy, earthy thing.
Spicy, earthy berry.
Yeah, I kind of like it so far. Let's see.
If it tastes like it smells,
This is awesome.
this is gonna be a winner. But
I remember in the past we were not super impressed with the way this tasted.
all right, going in.
That is so unique. It's unlike any wine I've ever had.
Up front, it's a lot sweeter than
Yeah.
what the numbers say. But then as it continues,
Oh, no. It's 1.004, not 990. It's
Okay.
1.004.
Okay.
That's right.
Because as it continues, then it starts to do these things.
It's earthy.
Yeah.
It starts out almost like the date wine did. Has like a tart, date kind of flavor.
but sweet and
a little bit sweet, tart kind of thing, and then it gets
then
more earthy.
Like the earthiness, the tannins, the acids, like it all
Strong flavor, though.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
strong
Yeah.
flavor. Much more strong flavor than I ever thought goji berries would have. I'm torn on this one.
I don't know where to go with this. Like, I feel like it needs an adjustment, but I don't know what direction.
If we sweeten it, this is going to become cloying very, very quickly.
Can I have another sip?
Yeah.
For
We
science?
have to be careful with this one. This is something that happens when you're doing these kind of tastings where you're adjusting to taste. In my head, I'm going, this is so strong and so like date flavored almost that if we add sweetness to it, I'm afraid it's going to be like a nasty, cloying mess.
But if you just...
But the smell is amazing.
What I'm trying to do now, and this may be nearly impossible, is I'm trying to pair the aroma with my planned adjustments for the flavor to better match the aroma.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't love it the way it is.
Right, the aroma is beautiful.
The taste is very earthy. I feel like a little brightness could help, but I feel like citrus would help. I have an idea. Tell me if you think this is crazy. I think we have an orange in the house.
We do.
What about putting this back into a fermenter and sitting on some orange peel for a week? I want a little bit of acidic brightness, but I also want more of the citrusy flavor to blend with that and lighten it up, kind of. Because right now it's very heavy and thick. I think it needs a little bit of brightness and a little bit of lightness to bring it back. I don't think we've done that where we got to this point and then we let it sit on something.
Do you think the orange alone is going to be enough, or do you want to put some acid into this?
The orange is going to add acid. At that point, we taste it, see
And
if
we
it
can
needs
adjust
more.
again. Okay. All right.
Because it's hard to say how much acid it's really going to add. One last taste and then we'll see.
The aroma kind of reminds me of a mead more than a wine.
Yeah, it does. This actually reads like a mead.
I'm getting the floral honey notes on the aroma.
That's the goji berries. Yep.
But the flavor does not reflect that at all.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rack this back into a container and we will add some orange peel and let it go. All right, so we pulled out a tool that we haven't used in a while. It's the rumble jar.
Rumble jar. Now, the guys that make this, they're brothers, and they're super cool. And we've actually been talking with them over the years since they've constructed this beautiful
I think
device.
we had one of their first, actually.
Right. So what this basically is a micro perforated metal cylinder.
It's
and
stainless steel.
It's perfect for infusing things such as tea or coffee and cold brew
Or orange zest.
Orange
I
zest.
decided to go with zest rather than peel because the pith could add a bitter flavor. I don't really want more bitterness here, so I'm just going to go with the zest. And we're putting it in the rumble jar to ease extraction because
we have
notice
a pretty clear liquid here, and we want to keep it that way. So
we also don't have a lot.
maintaining our zest within the rumble jar will help us in keeping our beverage clear.
Now, a key point in adding this is I want to add the floral, well, that one piece isn't going to fulfill its destiny. I wanted to add a floral kind of citrusy vibe, but I didn't want it to taste like orange. So it's just one orange zest. It's like literally about 2 tablespoons of zest, not that much. No juice, no pith, and I'm just going to drop it in. It'll fill with liquid and then sit in there, and it's not even gonna float.
Ta-da! We're gonna go ahead and put our lid and airlock on there. Why? You should know the answer to that question. Is so that way we can keep all the bad stuff from getting into our brew and keep all our good stuff in our brew. That was technical talk.
And now, just gonna stick our label back on, put it back on the shelf of fermentation or the fermentation station or the ferment station, how some people like to call it, and let it sit.
I don't even know how to do this.
She never dries the spot. I always say squared off to the airlock.
I did this spot and he goes like over there.
No, I went right there. Right there. It just doesn't stick to that. It's fine. We'll do that off camera. See you in a couple weeks. It's been like almost 3 weeks. Wow, we let that sit that long. Okay. But anyway, we put orange zest into a container to hold it, and today we're going to remove that. Look at how hard this is to do.
I know that was pretty stressful.
Yep, that was rough, man. I'll tell you. We're going to rack it to the pitcher, but
I'll be
we're
right
gonna
back.
remove that first. We have about 94 ounces, so not quite a gallon.
The aroma that I was getting while we were racking kind of reminded me of Earl Grey. I was getting like a bergamot thing.
Okay.
Rather than just
we're gonna
orange.
now taste it and see if it needs any further adjustments. It's got a beautiful color.
Yeah. It's reading bergamot.
Well, we did just add orange zest to it.
I know.
Orange zest
with the
can do that.
goji combo. It's
Oh, cool. Well, that's a good thing. On the smell, definitely, you're not wrong. Wow, that is kind of. I didn't get the orange at first, then I got in there and was. It's like candied orange almost.
yeah.
That is really nice.
It almost comes across bochet.
Yeah, a
But
little bit of a.
This is a wine. There's no honey in it.
I think that's
but
the earthiness of the goji berries.
I feel like it's got cooked honey in it, but there's no honey in this.
You know, about the only thing that I want to add to this is a little acid.
Oh, a little brightness.
Just a little
Good pop.
brightness. I think the sweetness level is fine. It's a 1.004.
It's crazy sauce.
I know. Yeah, just a little bit of acid. So do
Right.
we want to do acid blend or do we want to do a specific type of acid? Like citric. Enhance that citrusy flavor.
All right.
Just a tiny bit.
All
It
right.
won't really do that much.
I'm hip
but-
to your jive.
All right, let's try it. Okay, so what I was talking about, if you use like acid blend, you're getting malic acid, citric acid, and
Tartaric.
tartaric acid. Yeah, I always say that one wrong. You're getting all three in different amounts. But you can just use tartaric acid. You can just use citric acid. You can just use malic acid. So today, because I wanted to enhance that little bit of citric flavor, it's a different kind of acid. Doesn't really come across as orange or citrus at all. We're going to use citric acid today. I'm going to start with 1 teaspoon and put that right in and give it a mix. It should dissolve pretty easy. It's made to do that. Now, what the acids do, and I'm finding that when we age things, I like them more acidic than they are. So I'm trying to add a little bit more acidity to things just before we bottle them or at the finishing stages. It does a couple things. First, it brightens those flavors a lot. And over aging, when they tend to mellow, it actually keeps them a little brighter. But what it also does is it acts as a preservative.
Right. Traditionally, and to this day, it's common for winemakers to bump up the pH to make it more acidic after fermentation is done.
So reduce the pH, bump up the acidity.
Bump up the acidity.
Got to be careful how you say that
Right.
one.
'Cause,
Yeah, pH is weird. The lower the number, the more acidic.
right. So bump up the acidity, lower the numeral of the pH.
Yes,
Got completely derailed. Oh, this smells so good.
it really does. This one smells very nice. I had my concerns about this one along the way, too. I want more.
All right.
I want more, yeah. This is where, if you understand how acidity works and you have the calculators to do all this, you can actually figure out how much acidity to add. But I always find that going by taste is far better because on paper, oh, that's how much acidity I should have. Yeah, but I didn't like the way it tasted. So what good does that do?
Yeah.
I'd much rather, that's why we sweeten the same way. We sweeten to taste. So I'm acidifying to taste.
And if you think about that, all flavor components are going to react differently to your palate
Oh, yeah.
based on their combinations. So we don't know what the combination of goji berry and citrus peel, how sweet that should be or how acidic that should be. So that goes with pretty much any recipe. So doing this step-by-step increments, like Brian has already said, just makes more sense.
Ooh, it's almost like tangy now. It actually enhanced the mouthfeel. That's unexpected. It feels not syrupy, but more viscous.
You know how like a lemonade or
That's
a
amazing.
limoncello or something has that really great
Mouthfeel.
mouthfeel? That's what we're getting now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
I'm happy. Are you happy?
am happy. I don't
right.
think this needs anything further.
So let's put on our notes that we took 2 teaspoons of citric acid. All right, so our volume now is,
Like 92 ounces.
yeah. So
So it's more than a half gallon, less than 3/4 of a gallon. We're gonna find a container and put it in there, let this sit for a couple weeks to settle out completely, and we'll be back to give you a final tasting. It's been another week. It's been sitting. Time to do the final tasting on this one. So we have our sanitized baster, because you always want to sanitize stuff before you go sticking it in your fermenter. Ooh, it's got a nice, that
kind of
color
like
is amazing.
a tea-like color almost with red.
I always say they look like whiskey, because that's what they
Oh
look
yeah,
like.
that is whiskey-esque.
Yeah, it really is.
Whiskey adjacent.
I didn't get much, but it's okay. So this, we added some citric acid last time. So this is still dry. This should be like 1.004 gravity. So it's 12.4%, but we added some acid. Oh, and the smell, it's
That
incredible.
aroma is delightful.
It's like an earthy, fruity, plummy. You can get a little bit of like a cherry almost.
It's reminding me, yeah, I think cherry is what it's reminding me of. 'Cause there's
Cherries and
something
plums.
familiar, but I'm just like, what is that?
It smells like candy.
It smells like candy. It
It
smells
really
like,
does.
like a Jolly Rancher or something.
Yeah, in that realm. That's amazing. I don't remember it smelling quite that good a week ago.
If you haven't experienced the joy of Jolly Ranchers, I don't even know if they make them anymore. Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Go get some Jolly Ranchers. They're good stuff.
All right, I'm going in for a taste. Okay, the taste is very similar to the aroma. It's fruity, not quite as sweet. It doesn't seem to be as sweet as the aroma. With I need more. Can you hold on to that for a second?
Absolutely.
My taste was very small because I didn't have much.
That's how it works.
Yeah, there's definitely a fruity candy thing going on. It's not overly sweet, but it has enough sweetness to it. This is way, way better than I thought it was going to be.
So it ended at 1.004. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
So this is practically dry.
Yeah.
Based on the way this thing started, I did not have high hopes.
Yeah. This came out a lot better and a lot different, I think is the more important adjective
Very different.
than what we anticipated.
The acid that we did, the citric acid,
That helped a lot. Yep.
I think that converted that earthy
Yeah.
fruit flavor to a brighter, lighter, more candy type fruit. Wow, what an amazing difference. I mean, that transformed it. I'm impressed. This is still very heady, very powerful flavor. This is not something to just, it's not a nice light wine like the color might suggest.
No.
It's actually quite heavy feeling.
It's very heavy. I honestly don't even know what to compare this to as far as the wine spectrum goes.
This is like white wine with some sort of a fruit juice added. Almost like a peach, apricot,
Jerry.
orange, and cherry mixture
Yeah,
all in
yeah.
one. That's the best I got. It's sort of like that. It's so unique.
It is. It is really
I
nice.
like it.
I
Came
like
out
it
so
too.
much better
You
than
know
I
who I
thought.
think would enjoy this? Is Jared Lojek. Jared,
Yeah, Jared, this is right up your alley.
I think you would enjoy this.
It's weird and unique and tastes really good. Well, it's true.
That sounds kind of off-putting. If you know us, and hopefully, I think I trust that Jared knows us well enough that
Yeah.
that was not meant to be an insult. That was
Oh,
actually
no.
a compliment.
Absolutely not.
Jared
is one of our VIPs, and he tends to like things that are a little more esoteric than some.
yes, and
But he doesn't make bad brews, from what I understand. So
No.
I would say, this fits in there. It's
Yeah.
unique. It's a little weird,
yeah,
but it's good.
it's the path less traveled.
Yeah. So we have a couple of scores we have to put on this now.
All right, repeatability. I would say
Really not that hard. We did adjust pH. The pH was
right.
Oh, actually, no, we didn't. The pH was 5.57 to start.
so the
So we
pH is
didn't
fine.
even adjust it. We let it run all on its own. We added more goji berries.
The only thing we did
Then
is
we added
the little bit of
orange zest and
acid.
citric
Yeah.
acid. Repeatability, this is like a 9.5.
Absolutely.
This is pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah,
I don't see any reason why somebody couldn't make this. We even used EC 1118 yeast on this one.
right. And dried goji berry is pretty easy to get.
We bought them
as,
at the Asian market.
as far as I know.
Yeah. Shouldn't be that hard to find. I'm pretty sure you could get them on Amazon.
Yeah.
If we can, we'll put a link in the description to
Absolutely,
this.
because I do that for every recipe that we do
Yeah.
for you
And
to
it's
make
just
it easy.
sugar and yeast and yeah. So this was easy. 9.5 for repeatability, no problem.
Absolutely.
The personal bias, the likability score, if you will.
This is a difficult one for me.
Yeah.
I find it very
It's
intriguing.
so different that it's hard to categorize.
Right.
Like,
When I
would I drink this?
when I think of wines, would I put this in a wine category? Not really.
It is wine, though.
But it is wine. But what category would it go in?
I don't know. It goes in the uniqueness. Hold up, please.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to use some more too because
Okay,
I have
that's
thoughts.
what I was doing. I was getting more so that we can both consider our thoughts.
It's thought provoking.
It really is. This is one of the more unique things we've made. And I thought, oh, it's goji berry. It should be really simple, but it's far more than the sum of its parts.
We did have people suggest that we combine other elements with this, but I am actually really happy that we kind of left it at the goji berry and then just augmented it at the very
just
end.
little balance
to
alterations.
Pump that up. I can see where you'd want to diverge from this once you've made this and go, oh, I can imagine this going with that and continuing on the path of exploration, which we encourage.
Learn from what you did and build on it.
Absolutely. But I would say go ahead and make this on its own so that way you can see, is goji berry right for you?
You know what I would mix this with? Cranberry.
Cranberry, sure, because it's got the citrus and the fruit. Yep.
And we might leave the citric acid out if you mix it with cranberry because that's going to add the acid back in. So just another recipe.
See adding hibiscus to this as well because it's a similar path.
Mm-hmm. But that doesn't get us to a score.
It doesn't get us to a score. And by golly, I'm having difficulty getting to that number.
Wow. It's such a unique flavor. And the fact that it's sort of dry and it's almost a white wine is really messing with my head.
It is. It's like, do I want it sweeter? I don't know, because that nice little acidic punch.
No, I don't want it sweeter. If someone handed me this and didn't tell me anything about it, I would think this was sweet. Like it was overly sweet. Not overly sweet, but that it was like a 1016 or a 1018
because it's got that
gravity.
That juicy, tart, sweet.
Oh yeah.
Fruitiness to it.
I may have to rethink my idea that in order for fruit to taste like fruit, it needs to be sweet, because
it just needs to taste like fruit.
1.004 is not really sweet. That's off dry.
The sweetness is not part of the equation. It's the juiciness.
This throws a lot of assumptions out the window, which I love that.
Goji
I think
berry,
that's awesome.
You're testing us.
Yeah. But okay, so our scale goes 1 through 10, with the occasional 11 being reserved for those things that are just incredible. Up till about 5 is stuff that I personally up till below 5 is stuff that I probably wouldn't drink. Like 4.5 and below, I probably wouldn't really drink it. A 1, I'd probably just dump it out. I wouldn't even keep it. Up to about a 7 is considered good, even like really good. 7.5 to 10 is awesome. They're great, and just varying degrees of that. To me, a 10 is there's nothing I would ever change about it. It's hard to do. We're getting more picky. I'm getting more picky.
I'm getting more picky too.
Yes. So you might see lower scores because we're being more picky, but it's not because they aren't good. It's just because we're being more picky.
Right.
Got to leave room for those 10s and 11s when they happen,
Absolutely.
So, do you have a number for this?
I don't know. I kind of do, but I feel like I'm being ultra harsh on it.
Oh, wow. 1, 2, 3, 7.
6.5.
I was debating between 7.5 and 7, and the reason why that's a huge differentiation is 7 to me is good, bordering on very good. 7.5 is great. I would say this is very good.
This is one of those things that is going to be, for me personally, very dependent on my mood.
Yes, that is true. This is a unique beverage.
It's very
not
unique.
An everyday drinker.
It's not a take a drink and go, oh yeah, that's good. It's a take a drink and go, I'm appreciating you today because I am in this particular mood.
Right.
Or I'm not appreciating you today because I'm in this other particular
Maybe we need
mood.
to make a new category. The philosophical brew.
The philosophical brew.
The brew that you have to contemplate and think about in order to enjoy.
We're not going to add that category because I'm already behind on the spreadsheet of Joan. But if we were, this could easily fall into that category. We can talk about it,
This
sure.
is the philosophical brew. I think because it's really amazing and interesting. It's just so different from other things that it makes you go, I don't even know what to do with this one. Like, I don't want to eat food with it. I think it would overtake and ruin things.
Quandary and an enigma and
It's something wrapped in a something in a something.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact name.
I don't remember either.
But
somebody will, and somebody will remind us in the comments below.
But what we're going to do with this now is this is probably going to sit for another probably a couple months until we get to bottling it. And then we will rack it off and bottle it. And one bottle is going to go away for a year. And in a year, we will tell you what we think of it at that time.
Yeah, because who knows what will happen within a year.
It could be a completely different thing. It might be amazing. It might absolutely suck. You never really know what's going to happen. But if you make this, let us know what your thoughts were on it and see what experiences you had with it. And in the meantime, as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.